Hello, Russ from Florida Tube Amp. On the bench today is a Fender Blues Jr. It's got quite the hum. I'm going to take a guess that it's one of these four caps right here, which what we're going to do is basically Bilm mod this amp and replace all these caps, but we'll do some tests and see if we can figure out which cap is bad before we do that. Okay, we're going to do the classic vintage radio test on these capacitors. I've got the one of the speaker wires cut so that I can use these two wires, and I'm going to check all these capacitors real quick. That one's okay. That one is bad. That one is probably bad. And that one is bad. So by the capacitor test, we have two bad capacitors. Here are the parts we're going to put in this amp today. Some nice F&T capacitors, some resistors to increase the preamp gain, a couple of orange drops for the bass and the mid-tone, and a pot that will allow us to adjust the bias. Okay, the orange drop tone caps are in, and there's been a little mod done to the mid-range as well. Alright, we got it all back together. You can see the orange drop capacitors up in there. You can see that it has a bias pot now. We got F&T caps in there. We've upsized some resistors here to give it a little bit more gain and more headroom. And let's finish putting it back together. Alright, we got the amp back together and all screwed up except for the back. Now I'm going to go through and test the tubes, starting with some tubes that he had actually just laying there. So we will set our voltages correctly. No shorts. Okay, this tube he has in the bottom is testing new. Okay, this is V1. No shorts, and testing out at about 1500. Okay, it looks like V2 tests new as well. V3 tests really good. Looks like they're up there about 1700, and so that's about as high as I've seen a 12AX7 test. One thing I did want to point out is that in V1, V2, and V3, all those tubes are in there loose. I'm going to spray them out and do the best I can, but we may need to replace those sockets at some point. Okay, moving on to the EL84s. Quick short test. Nothing going on there. This guy is coming up to, I don't know, about 8500 or so. And our minimum on that tube is 56, so that's pretty good. And this tube is testing out the same. Not new, but very good. Alright, this is tube EL84 that I labeled B that's in the bottom of the amp here. It's testing good as well. And this is tube C. Not coming up quite as good as the other one, but still coming up good enough. The set here is certainly good enough for a spare set. Alright, I'm going to pull it off the bench for the moment. I probably will have to replace that reverb tank, but I'm going to probably do that tomorrow. Well, you can hear I got the reverb working on this.